everybody. Thank you for joining us, and welcome to today's episode of Around the House, our Roundhouse Marketing Podcast. Today we have Sarah Manone with us. Sarah is the augmented reality expert that we work with to develop AR experiences for our clients. What a fun and exciting field. Thanks for joining us, Sarah.
Happy to be here.
Well,
Thanks
what
for
I'd like
having
to
me.
do, oh yeah, of course. What I'd like to do is just kind of pick your brain a bit, really. I think there are a lot of people out there who are interested in augmented reality and what it could do for their business, but I also think there is a little bit of a fear of the unknown.
Absolutely.
You and I have worked together in augmented reality in the past, and I know I personally find AR projects to be a lot of fun. There really is an endless amount of ways that AR can be used to help keep customers engaged and excited about products and experiences.
Absolutely, yeah. We continue to see it as an effective tool for increasing engagement, and it continues to evolve.
Yes.
It is, I think, intimidating to some people to kind of understand what it does and where the technology is going. So I hope to answer some of the common questions here today.
Great. Well, let's start with the basics. What is augmented reality?
Sure. So Wikipedia actually defines augmented reality as a live, direct or indirect view of a physical, real-world environment whose elements are augmented or supplemented by computer-generated sensory input such as sound, video, graphics, or GPS data. So couched in that definition, there are a lot of different parts and pieces. So let's talk a little bit about how that all works. So basically what augmented reality does is through the use of an AR browser mobile application, we can take and scan any image or any object, printed or three-dimensional objects, and launch additional content or additional augmented reality experiences. And those experiences can be audio and sound, or they can be video. They can also be 3D experiences that the user can actually engage with a 3D object or a 3D environment and manipulate that object or manipulate the things that are happening in that environment. And then finally, we can also use the mobile device itself and the GPS data, the location-based data of our user, and actually use their location to trigger an experience. So if we know they're by a store, for instance, and we want to offer them a coupon if they come in, we can easily distribute those sorts of promotional offers. So what's really important about this is the idea that what we're doing is taking and augmenting existing or new print collateral, direct mail catalogs, packaging, and that all of the possibilities in terms of the experiences themselves are really only limited by our imaginations at this point.
Absolutely.
In terms of the types of experiences we can create for our users.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think in working with you in the past, it really seems like you kind of have to look at what you want to solve for and then work backwards on what would be the best way to get there, because there are so many options and different ways that you could create an experience with this platform.
Yeah, and I think, one of the common questions that we get or maybe pieces of feedback that we get when we travel and we talk about this is, how is this any different than the QR code that we had a few years ago?
Right. Yep.
And I think it's important to note it's different in a couple of ways. Number one is, the QR code was really a warehousing, storage, tracking mechanism as a technology in its initial state. And I think we kind of shoehorned that technology in as marketers, and it worked for a while, but I think the thing that really kept it from taking off or from becoming more than it ever got to be was really the experience itself. So we would typically see the QR code would lead us to a landing page or just a video that sat out on YouTube or our website. Whereas with AR, we really have the opportunity to engage our audiences and have them create and manipulate experiences so they can engage with our brand and with our content in ways that they never thought they could. And we really see that as the opportunity to open up a channel for ongoing communication. If you think about augmented reality as a channel in and of itself, if I take, say, a printed catalog and I distribute 1 million of those, I can actually push new AR content to that same catalog day after day, week after week, month after month, and I'm consistently refreshing the content then that catalog provides and the value
Right.
that my consumer is getting out of that. So,
and that's a really good point. That's really cool because, like, let's say you print 20,000 flyers, and you've got them out there, and that lasts you 4 months, and that flyer is what the customer is scanning to get the experience, and you want to change that experience in a month. You don't have to reprint the flyers. You still use that flyer as the marker, or what the customer would reference to launch the application, but you can evolve and change that experience over those 4 months, which is really cool about this platform. And that's something I didn't understand at the beginning. So
yeah. And I think as marketers, we're always looking for, and our clients are always looking for ways to make their investment in print marketing, especially, to continue to make that more and more valuable and to increase the return on that investment. Because the print that works today is not cheap. It is not a commodity product. And the kind of print that we see really engaging audiences and getting returns is an investment for these brands. And I think the more that we as partners can do to offer our customers more value in their print, I think it's good for everybody.
Yeah. So one of the questions that I get asked by clients sometimes is, well, how does this differ from virtual reality? And I think that's an excellent question, and I think people do confuse the two. Could you explain the differences a little bit?
Sure. So with virtual reality today, there's a couple different differences. One is certainly the experiences themselves, and the other is what devices we use to engage with that content. And so today we can use our mobile devices to engage with AR, but we require a headset of some sort to engage with VR, right? We need a VR lens by which to view the 3D experiences and to kind of immerse ourselves into those virtual reality environments. And so that's where we see things like formerly Google Glass and Google Cardboard, as well as the Oculus Rift and the Samsung Gear, and all of those headsets are really the device by which we engage in the experience. And then it's the experience itself. I mean, the big difference here is with virtual reality, you're really going into a completely other environment, and you're stepping kind of out of your current environment. And the idea, too, is that you're surrounded by 3D objects and overlaid content that you can actually move physically to engage with and to explore. So it's a much more physically active or engaged experience, and it's done so in a 360, typically graphically animated or graphically established sort of environment.
Yeah, so virtual reality is really where you see people, running into walls with headsets on. Yeah, definitely.
And I think that technology is really changing, and I think the gaps between human and technology and how we engage with those experiences, I think that I just continue to see defined, and so I think there will be a day where it's not as obtrusive to maybe engage with some of those experiences as some people think it is right now, or used to be as the technology was originally developing.
Right. So going back to augmented reality, we talked about what we call a marker, or what the customer would have to essentially scan with their mobile device in order to pull up the experience.
Right.
So one of the questions that I get frequently is, okay, let's say we want to use this installation guide as a marker. So I want the customer to be able to scan the cover of this guide and launch the experience. Do I have to print anything differently? Do I have to use a special ink? Do I have to sprinkle magic glitter on there? Do we have to do anything different with the actual printing of the piece?
Sure. Well, magic glitter never hurts,
right.
in my opinion. But no, it's not actually necessary. So no, nothing needs to be done uniquely in either the design or the printing. There are technologies out there that use things like watermarks as triggers and things like that. And of course, like we mentioned earlier previously, the QR code was kind of the the device that got us from print to digital. But with augmented reality, no, you're not doing anything different with the design. You're not doing anything different with the print. There are some best practices to follow and to be cognizant of, but really we can pretty much any image whatsoever can be used as a marker. We just want to think about, making sure that we choose images maybe that have a lot of contrast from the background so that the image is easily recognizable and mappable. And we want to think about how things like lighting play into it. So if we have a really high gloss finish on a piece and we're in a really bright room, we might get some glare, and that glare can interrupt the scan and create some issues with the reliability of the AR experience. So there's some best practices we've learned and we apply when we're designing for these sort of programs. But really, at the end of the day, technically speaking, any image can be used as a marker.
Right. Okay. Great. We talked about QR codes a little bit, and when those first came out, we definitely used them at Roundhouse, but it's kind of a little bit of what I would consider a fad or a trend. We don't use them that much anymore.
Agreed.
How do you see augmented reality in that context? Do you see it being a fad or a trend, or is it really here to stay?
My opinion is it's here to stay. And I think one of the big reasons, right, is because of the mobile device, and that is our mode of engagement. And we spend an inordinate amount of time on our devices and with our devices. Yeah. And it just makes it so easy for AR content to go to market and for people to engage with it. So to me, it's a very easy, logical step on the part of our audience members to engage with this type of content. And I think the other thing is coming back to a point you made earlier, which is really thinking about what problem we can solve. That, I think, is really where AR has a lot of potential. If we think of it not as just a promotional gimmick, but as truly a problem solver of a business challenge or a consumer challenge. If we can provide people clearer instruction, if we can show them how to do something in their home that they're looking to do, some way that we can solve a problem or add value beyond sort of the gaming aspects and the cool factor, I think that's where AR really is here to stay, is in that problem-solving aspect.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you. It's so fun to see some of the ways that augmented reality is being used.
Yeah,
what do you think? Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, go ahead.
What would you think? There's a lot of misconceptions out there too about augmented reality. Is there one that you think is kind of the biggest one, or something maybe you think people aren't understanding about augmented reality?
I think maybe the biggest misunderstanding is that it's really just a tool to get to a video. And I think that is probably the most common use right now, and it's one of the most basic uses. I think when we can really, video is not a negative endpoint by any means, but if we can think about how to take video and make that more interactive so that the user can go back, they can go forward, they can engage, they can dive deeper into more content. If we can really think about actual experiences that really engage the individual user beyond just watching a static video, I think that's really where the money is at and where we're going to see that sort of value and the return on the investment. So I think that's kind of a common misconception, is that, what we're doing is really just sending people to videos, and there's so much more that we can do with it, and it comes back to that idea of opening it up as a channel. And so I think the misconceptions are really around the types of experiences that can be created, and I hope that, through podcasts like this and through some of the speaking events and things that we do in our blog and our, partnerships, we can continue to educate the market about what the opportunities are for their brand.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think to some companies, incorporating AR into their materials seems confusing, maybe scary. I know to some customers they're thinking it's very expensive to do this. What would you say to those thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, if you have existing video or interactive content or 3D models or illustrations, all of that is great fodder for creating an initial AR program. And so I would say take a look at what you have around you. There's a lot that can be reused, retooled to create these experiences, and to do so at a pretty cost-effective rate. I mean, the cost drivers really are around the app itself, the AR browser app itself. You can certainly use a third-party app that's on the market. There's a variety of them. You can certainly also embed an AR browser app into your current branded app. So you have one stop for all your customer experiences. So whether you decide to use a third-party one or a proprietary one, that's a cost driver. And then really the only other cost driver is the experience itself and how robust that is and how much of new content needs to be created. So to really manage those costs, it's about looking around and seeing what you have that you can leverage or think of in a new way. We have all of us as brands and companies, we have such history and knowledge and so many things and kind of artifacts from over the years. I think there's a lot that we can do with things that exist today.
Yeah, and there's lots of cool ways to track the activity on your experiences, too. I know you and I talked quite a bit about that. You can attach Google Analytics to it. You can even link off of the experience to have your viewers do a survey to see how they enjoyed the experience or what they would suggest or maybe what they'd like to see different.
Absolutely.
So the real-time aspect of it is pretty great as well.
Yeah, I mean, think about all the measurement and analytics that brings to print, direct mail, et cetera, that perhaps we weren't getting before.
Definitely. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, great. That's pretty much it for the questions that I had for you today. I want to thank you for joining us today, and it's been a lot of fun working with you and hope to do a lot more projects.
It's my pleasure. Happy to talk to you.
Sarah.
Thanks again for having me today.
You bet. Thank you very much.